Hello and welcome to Sujit Talks. My name is Sujit Bilab, a registered migration agent here in Australia. This video is about why you should start your skilled visa processing with the skills assessment. 5 reasons why you should go for skills assessment. At the same time, take the English language test score, but not sit for an English test, wait for the results, and then think about skills assessment. 5 reasons why you should do both things simultaneously. Skills assessment on one hand and English test on the other hand. Reason number 1, cost. Obviously, if you compare the prices, the skills assessment fee is a bit expensive than the English test. But that is only when you write the test once. In reality, people will write English language tests multiple times because they do not get the required score. First, to meet the criteria, and second, to get the cutoff or meet the pass points. When I say criteria, it could be skills assessment criteria, it could be state nomination criteria. And when I say pass points, the pass points set by the skill select. When I say cutoff, the points required to get an invitation. So depending upon these things, the required score in an English test differs. But if you compare the cost writing English test, let's say for 3 times and 1 skills assessment fee, obviously the English test fees is more than the skills assessment fee. That's why you have to start 2 things at the same time. Do the skills assessment, work on your English test. Go for a migration agent like me. They will help you with the skills assessment while you prepare the English test. So that was the first reason, cost. The second reason is time. Going back to the example of writing 3 times an English test, look at the time you spent on those bloody English language tests. It could be 1 month, it could be 3 months. Let's assume it's 3 months. So for the first 3 months, you've been writing English tests without actually knowing what you have to score. But if you write the English test and go for the skills assessment, at the end of the 3 months, let's say you got the required score and you got the positive skills assessment, so you save time. Otherwise, you got the required score by the end of the 3rd month, and now you decide to go for the skills assessment. It might take another 3 months. Let's not talk about the skills assessment bodies who have priority processing. Generally speaking, it could take up to 3 months, 1 month for organizing documents, because you are all working and you might be busy. Okay, we're not considering students without experience going for skills assessment. We're talking about mainly the people with work experience. So they might take up to a month to organize documents, and then you have to give at least 2 months for the skills assessment body to give you an outcome. So if you spend 3 months on English test, another 3 months on skills assessment, it's 6 months. That's totally a waste of time. If you spend 3 months on 2 things and get them done, that will be awesome. Another example is if you spend 6 months on an English test and still don't go for skills assessment, then go for skills assessment after the 6th month, it will be 9 months in total. So time-wise, also going for both skills assessment and English test at the same time will fetch you points as well as will give you more time to get invited. Number 3 is the validity. The validity of skills assessment is 3 years unless the skills assessment body says it's shorter. For example, ACS says it's 2 years, so it will be 2 years. Otherwise, if they do not say anything, the skills assessment body do not comment on the expiry date, then it will be 3 years. Likewise, the PTE and IELTS scores, all the English language test scores, in fact, if you look at the alternative English language test score for Australian immigration. You can clearly see that it's black and white, saying that it's valid for 3 years after the applicant takes the exam. The IELTS and PTE might say in their scorecards that it's only valid for 2 years, but the immigration will consider it for 3 years. But bear in mind, the requirements for skills assessment bodies are different and the state nomination bodies are different. They might say they want it for 2 years, but generally speaking, it's 3 years for English test and 3 years for skills assessment body. That's about validity, reason number 3. Because it has 3 years, why don't you go for both at the same time? Because you got 3 years from now. If you got skills assessment today, you got 3 years from now to get invitation to submit EOI and to put yourself in the EOI, the skill select pool, and see what happens. Number 4 is the eligibility. Both skills assessment and the English test are part and parcel of the mandatory requirements for skills select. So without either of them, you cannot submit EOI. So what's the point in getting the English test score and not having a skills assessment? You can't submit an EOI. There are few people who got 90 by 90 in PTE, but do not have a skills assessment. They just apply the skills assessment and they wait for 3 months. If they would have got that skills assessment by then, they would have applied by now. Let's say somebody's age is 44 years old, 44 plus, and they got a great score in PTE, the top score, but they don't have the skills assessment. And by the time they get skills assessment, by the time they put EOI, they might cross 45 and not be eligible for a skill visa. Likewise, somebody's age might increase from 32 to 33 and then they lose some points. So to have both at the same time is crucial in this day and age. Should not think about just the money, think about the time as well. And even if you think about money, how much you're spending on English test is really more than what you're spending on the assessment. So I just went back to the first reason. So before I go to fifth reason, I'll just repeat what I said so far. The first reason was cost, second reason was time, third reason was validity, fourth reason was eligibility. And now the fifth reason, the most important reason why you have to go for skills assessment along with the English test is the estimation of points. You would not get a right estimate or a better estimate or an approximate of how many points you're scoring unless and until you have a skills assessment report. Because in the skills assessment report, number 1, it talks about qualifications. Number 2, it talks about work. Okay, it might talk about something else, but these are the 2 mandatory things that really matter to you while claiming points. Number 1, qualification. If the skills assessment report says that your bachelor's degree or your overseas degree is equivalent to that of the Australian qualification framework level, and it says it's on the same level, the bachelor's in overseas is equivalent to the bachelor's in Australia, then you will get those 15 points. If it's not equivalent and if it's below the level and it falls in some other level in AQF, the Australian qualification framework, where it can lead to getting just 10 points instead of 15 points. Also, in some skills assessing bodies, they look at your qualification, work, and if you don't have an Australian degree, they say for that skills assessment, they need an Australian degree, but because you do not have it and you have work experience, we are giving you a certificate level qualification. When that happens, even though in your overseas degree, you have a bachelor's, but the skills assessment body just gave you a certificate level. Obviously, you should claim points for the certificate, not for the bachelor's. When that happens, you get 5 points less. So if you just go to the points calculator and put 15 plus 15, 15 for qualification, 15 for work, without knowing if that qualification is recognized as Australian standard, without knowing if you get 8 years experience. If you have 8 years experience, it doesn't matter that you'll get 15 points for your 8 years. It depends on what the skills assessment body says. So work and qualification, awarding points, claiming points in EOI, it's really important that you have the skills assessment report ready so that you know how many points you can claim. For example, you got the PTE score but you don't have the skills assessment report, you just calculate vaguely using PTE score and going to a points calculator. And you can't apply EOI anyway. And at the end of the period where you get the skills assessment report, if your calculation is wrong, if the skills assessment body gives only 10 points for your bachelor's and only 10 points or 5 points for your work, but you thought it will give you 15 points, like in ACS you got ICT major, minor, RPL, etc., and where they deduct some years of experience from the total experience, and they say only this experience can be used to claim points. What would you do? What would you do? Just think about that. Do you have to go back and sit for the test again? And what if you got the top score already? What would you do? So you should have a migration plan, and that is why it's important to start both the things at the same time. Consult a migration agent, take his advice or her advice, and see if that migration agent is registered. Go to mara.gov.au and you can put in their name and see if they are registered. If they got number, put that number in there and see if they got registered. Ask for the number. If somebody says they are a registered migration agent or a migration agent, just ask them, what's your migration agent number? So that I can look it up. Don't be shy. So that brings to the end of this video. This video was about 5 reasons why you should go for skills assessment and English test parallelly. Number 1, cost. Number 2, time. Number 3, validity. Number 4, eligibility. Number 5, estimation of points. Now you know what to do. Please subscribe to my channel Sujit Talks for more information about Australian immigration. Subscribe and click on the bell icon to get notified. My name is Sujit Billa, a registered migration agent living in Australia. So if you need immigration advice, contact me. Go to my website sujittalks.com and schedule a consultation with me. I work in different time zones, so you may select your time zone and schedule a phone or web consultation with me. We can have a chat and we can take it forward if you're eligible for an Australian visa. Thank you once again.